guys, welcome back. Today I'm really excited to introduce my friend Stephanie Schiller and her company, Vogue Vignette. She and her artists are mainly based in Texas and they specialize in fashion illustrations. It is a really specialized style of drawing. They are very fast and very consistent in their work. And Stephanie is just the sweetest. She has a beautiful story, which she tells us in today's episode, which I was very excited to hear. And she leaves wonderful advice for artists who are coming into the space and offering their services as live guest illustrators. I hope that you enjoy this conversation as much as I did. Let's get started. Welcome to The Composed Artist, the podcast where we explore the intersection of artistry, entrepreneurship, and self-improvement and continue to pursue a more composed life. I'm your host, Stephanie, an artist specializing in live wedding painting, living in the vibrant and soulful city of New Orleans. Over the past decade, my job has taken me all over the world, meeting and creating art in front of thousands of people, and has allowed me to create a colorful life for myself and my family. Now, I help other artists build confidence, develop their techniques, and fall in love with the art of live wedding painting. I invite you to join us for inspiring stories of creative journeys, practical tips for running a successful art business, and honest conversations about the joys and challenges of running a studio and being a parent. This podcast is here to keep you company, keep you entertained, and is full of resources to help you on your journey to create a business that feeds your soul, makes an impact, and is insanely profitable. The Composed Artist is the podcast for the bold, creative, passionate, and genuine artist. Let's get started. And you've got a really good setup for your guests whenever you're illustrating at a wedding or an
Yeah.
event. You are the first, and I don't think I've seen another example of an artist using a screen to
Yeah.
record what you're doing on the table to where the guests who are whether they're standing there, getting their photo taken or being illustrated at the time, or they're just
Mhm.
passing by, there's a screen showing what you're doing. That
Yeah.
was a really that when I saw that before I saw you, and then I was like, "This girl
Ah,
is a genius." So,
love that.
what made you wanna do that?
My husband, 100%. It was
We
their
gotta give them
ideas, their
we
best
gotta give them
ideas.
credit. Man, these
Yes.
men, they just kinda sneak around in the background making all these great ideas, and then it makes
Yes.
everything better.
Yeah, it was 100%. He was like, "Look, I have this great idea. I think it's gonna really work great for your events."
Mm,
So he was like, "We need to get a monitor, get a camera." The first setup we had was at a wedding, I think back in 2015. So before Vogue Vignette was even Vogue Vignette. And the setup was super ghetto. There were cords everywhere, and, just, the angle was really funky, so it's like, I'm sitting it was just
yeah.
terrible. But that was the first one that we did, and people loved it. They loved being able to see what was happening in real time, and there are people
Mhm.
still that are like, "Oh my god." Like, they'll watch it for a few minutes, and then they're like, "Is this what you're actually doing?" Like, it doesn't register for them that, it's live. Like, everything that you're seeing right now, I'm doing right now in front of you, like, it's real time. It's been such a game changer, but he had this great idea, like, let people actually see what you're doing. They're gonna love it, and they have. I It was my idea to put a gold frame on it and
Mm, yeah.
fancy it up a little bit because, you know, after illustrating for so long at these events, you begin to understand who your client is. And so especially you with weddings as well, like, we understand our market and our audience and the decor of the events and the grandeur of everything that we're walking into. And I wanted to make sure that what we were bringing, even tech wise, still was gonna seamlessly fit into their event and really elevate, like, the overall style of everything. So I have to give mad props to my husband because it was his idea, and, you know, it was a good idea. It was a great idea. I know there's one artist in New Jersey, Nicole Flores, who just made her own setup, and she used the reel that I made on Instagram where I showed people like, all right, I'm gonna give you a backstory of like, y'all have been asking about it. This is the gilded monitor. I'm gonna show y'all how to make it. And she made her own, and she said it's already like leveling up her work. She's so excited. She knows that nobody else in her area is doing it and is really excited about how it's gonna really elevate her business and what she offers. It's pretty
That's
cool.
that it is really cool. And it's just one way that you've elevated your services, which are already it's so classy what you do. When I was thinking
Mm,
about who of all the people that I know and of all the people that I like and I trust and all the people in the world, who would be a really wonderful illustrator to have on the podcast. And you were the first person to come to mind. I really
mhm.
appreciate your style of like fashion illustrations. Did you always just illustrate at weddings, or do you have a background in fashion illustrations? How did you
I
get into doing
do.
weddings? Yeah, talk about that.
Yeah, so definitely have a background in fashion. I studied fashion design at UT here in Austin, and
Mhm.
but the fashion illustration was the part that I loved the most. I was always
Mm.
designing when I was really little, illustrating like my friends' prom dresses in high school. I mean, they were terrible, but I still have all of those illustrations in there. It's funny to watch the process. I think the first event that I did was back in 2015. The fashion illustration part was what I really loved. It's what I found myself practicing the most just when I had spare time. I wanted to get better at it. Um, and I wanted to just like feel creative with it. It was an outlet that really, I got to be really quirky and just do whatever I wanted to without, at that time, I was just doing it for myself.
Mhm.
So it was my own style. It wasn't anything that I was like trying to make money off of. But I started teaching fashion illustration because I was so good at the illustration part of it. My professor from UT started this Austin School of Fashion Design school here in Austin, and they asked me to be an illustration instructor. So I was illustrating for a really long time, teaching classes for a few years, started having clients who were interested in commissions. And I think it was like 2014. I like it was 2013, 2014. All of my dates start getting mixed up now, but someone from Neiman Marcus reached out to me here in Austin, was like, "Hey, we saw some of your work online." At this point, there was like Instagram was still like at the beginning phases, so
Mhm.
it was mostly pictures of like my cats and the cute shoes that I had. Hadn't really figured out how to do any real marketing. But they asked me to come in and illustrate for an event where they were featuring new handbags and shoes that had just launched. And so that event was the first event that I ever did where I was illustrating not people, but I was illustrating product at the event. It was my first live event, and I was so slow. It was so slow. It took me like 25 minutes to work on one shoe, a Louboutin shoe. But at that time, it was like just about the performance of people being able to see this artwork happening and
Mhm.
getting to see this really beautiful thing. So I took more time on it. But after that, once I kind of had that bug, I had some friends who were event coordinators and were like, "Do you do this for events?" And I'm like, "I can." I
Yeah.
imagine that I can. At that point, I was doing a lot of commissions, so people were seeing that work, and I'm like, oh, well, if you can do that, then you can probably illustrate people. So I was doing a lot of like real estate types of events. So there would be realtors who had these parties, or there would be an open house for um, an agent who was showcasing something. So I was in San Antonio and in Austin, like all the time at these random houses or parties for these types of events. And at the time, because my style of fashion illustration were these really long necks. They were these swan necks that I used to call them. Um, all of my illustrations were really funky like that. I was still doing
Mhm.
it in that style. So the necks were real long and a little funky. Um, but that's where it kind of started. I started getting that bug of like, but it still took maybe 3 or 4 years before I realized that I could take that extra side gig that I was doing and turn it into a full-time business.
Were you teaching as your full-time job and then doing the little events on the side? What were you doing full-time?
Oh, I was doing anything and everything full time. That was the nature of my
You
job.
were a full-time hustler.
Yeah, that is what I was doing. I was doing events on the side. I was doing commission portraits for clients, whether it was a newlywed portrait or um, an illustration for an invitation they were having. If it was, I did a lot of illustrative branding. So if clients were had companies that they were just launching a new product or wanting to have marketing material to promote their brand, then I would create artwork that was custom to their brand and their niche and their market. So doing that was like really wonderful because I it made me stretch my skills.
Yeah.
It made me learn how to do something new and to try something different and to work in a lot of different media, which was really exciting because I had such a broad range of work. But I was listening to one of your podcasts about, I didn't really know what my style was. And I feel like that has been, for the longest time, my biggest struggle with my
Mhm.
own work is like, even looking in my office right now, it's all over the place.
Yeah.
But it's still my work and it's still recognizably my work, but it's just been a challenge for me. Like, there's so many artists that have this one style and they've been doing it so consistently and so good for like a decade. And I'm
Mhm.
like, if I stopped showing all of these other things that I do, then I could be in that
Mhm.
like super niche, but like I'm not. Like I've done the pet portraits, I've done the custom illustrations that are more lifelike. I've done the wedding paintings, which I'm
Mm.
terrible at. I'm like I give that to the professionals because that is not my like strong suit. I'm not fast with painting.
I've seen your portraits after you took my, portrait
Oh
practice course. I really have enjoyed seeing and thank you for messaging me and kind of, like, sending me stuff here and
yeah.
there, like, on the side, and,
Oh,
I wanted to ask you, what is your favorite medium? 'Cause you said you do all of these different things. You were a yes man for a long time because that's what we do
mhm.
as commission artists, but the guest illustrations, do you use the Copic markers, or do you use watercolor with pen and ink? Like, what do you really love to do?
Yeah. So when I'm working at an event, I really love to illustrate with marker, so an
Mhm.
ink, and I love Prismacolor markers. Those are like
Mm,
my first passion. I have a lot of Copics, and if I had my way, I would take the chisel tip from the Prismacolor and the brush tip from the Copic, and I would put those two together, and I would be like the happiest lady ever. Those
you
two are
sound
my. I'm not going to put that into the universe that I would like to manifest that, because I feel like they both have different qualities that are really nice. But I mean, Prismacolor was the first marker that I ever really learned how to work with.
mm,
Um, and even then, like I had a huge set for like 5 years and I barely used them because there was a learning curve to actually figuring out how to use the tool
yeah.
effectively and
Oh,
properly.
yeah.
And once I figured that out, I was like, I am unstoppable. It's my favorite.
How
Yeah.
long does it take you to do an illustration of 2 people at a wedding? Let's just for example, how long do you get what amount of time do you give yourself to do 1 couple?
Yeah, so if it's a partial color illustration, then maybe like 6 or 7 minutes. If it's a full color, I try to keep it under like 10 to 12 minutes. And even
Uh,
that, I feel like is too long, which is
it's
crazy.
That's crazy, girl, because that's really fast, and I'm sure you're looking at the hundreds of people before you, and your
hmm
service heart desires to give all of them
Oh
an
yeah.
illustration. Like I totally get it. We can never be fast enough, right?
Yeah.
Um, but girl, that is very fast for the illustrations that you're doing. Um, I'm a fan. I think that
Well, thank
it
you.
helps to have a really well, the muscle memory, the understanding of the figure, your particular, the way that you do like faces and eyelashes and the quickness of it.
Hmm.
I know that that helps in the practice. And for anyone listening who is just getting started in anything, in any medium, or whether it's illustrations or live painting, portraits, pet portraits, it's going to take you longer at first. And when I say at first,
Hmm.
I don't mean the first one, I mean the first few years of doing
Yes.
this, because the practice just helps you understand. It's like speaking a
Hmm.
language. Just give it time, and know that with each one you get better and you learn a lesson or two, and improvement happens over time. You may have heard me talk about my little side business, my little fine art print shop. I create an original painting, I take a photo of it, and I print it, and I print it again and again and again. I make hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars a year on prints. It's so easy. And I learned everything I know about creating my own prints and printing them in house from Laurie Ann Gonzalez and her Art to Print course. I highly recommend, if you are an artist and you want to make easy money from your original works and even the commission works, you can resell those as prints. I recommend you check out Art to Print. Laurie Ann has a very direct way of teaching, and you are really going to appreciate her no fluff method of giving you information and telling you exactly what you need to do to make making fine art prints in your own studio a breeze. You can check her out online at learn.laurieannart.com. That's learn at LAURIEANNEART.com, or just click the link in the show notes for my affiliate link. Check her out and thank me later. You said around 2014 was when you kind of started doing those little open houses and the events.
Yeah.
When you were doing illustrations before that, were they also marker and ink or watercolor and ink, or were you doing a lot of acrylic? Have you ever used oil? Your whole experience as a working artist, how have you ended up with this love and kind of like, no, this is my jam, this is my medium for the markers and the ink? Where did you start? How'd you get there?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So when I started out with a lot of the commissions, I was doing mostly ink and marker. Like that was, it was the first tool that I really had out of college that I really used consistently. So everything was ink and marker, and the portraits were they were cute and, a little bit quirky. Everybody was really skinny. So of course everybody really loved their illustrations because they're like, you made me
Mhm.
so thin. And it wasn't until I think maybe 2016 that I was like, you know what? I'm gonna give watercolors a shot. Like I had tried it a little bit when I was younger, but I was terrible at it. Like I just didn't understand.
Me
I
too.
didn't understand it because I think with the nature of working with markers, is like you get to be really detailed and meticulous with how every little um, design or embellishment is created. That with watercolor it was like, oh wait, I wanted to be that same type of meticulous, and so I struggled with it for a really long time. Um, and so even now when I do watercolor illustrations, they're still not this really loose, like organic type of style. It's still very tight. It's still
Mm.
very like controlled in the way that the paint is moving and the way that it looks on paper, but I still really love the way it works. Gouache really was, after I did watercolor for a while and then I got gouache, I was like, oh, this is my jam. Like gouache still, I think, is one of my um, favorite paints to work with because it still gives you that really, translucent look that watercolor does, but it can give you something that feels really acrylic like. And I
Mhm.
loved that. So after I like recognized like, oh, I think the style that I'm trying, I would make different art pieces for myself in studio. And, the biggest thing that I struggled with was like the water.
Yeah.
The water was like I would make these really detailed things, and if any water touched it, it just like undid all of that. work that I did. So it took a really long time for me to buy acrylics and to start working with them. Once I did, and really once I took your course, um, it was so helpful for me to understand how to use the medium in a way
Mm.
that felt organic and felt
Mhm.
controlled, but also still felt like I had a little bit of movement and flow to it. Um, it has very quickly become one of my favorites to work with because I can do I love the way that it dries so fast. I think that was one thing with watercolor that really I struggled with was like, yeah, I'm
Mhm.
trying to work on this painting and I can't like get back to where I want to immediately go. And man, acrylic has been amazing. I love the way it feels. I love the way it sounds. I love like what you're able to create. And with I took your portraiture course, which and you guys, if y'all need to learn how to paint faces, Stephanie is your gal. It changed everything. It opened my skill set in what I believed possible for myself. It opened it up and it's turned my whole world upside down. Where I didn't even realize that I could paint the things that I have been able to paint. It's been
That's
a
so sweet. That's
girl,
so
you're
sweet.
so good. I've watched all of your videos like 15 times. So I'm sure all of your viewership on those videos is going up because I'm like, okay, I need to see that one more time.
I
Um,
love it.
and it was amazing. And color theory, I think that was something too. Like that, I never had a class in color theory.
Mm.
Um, I've like watched videos, but I feel like that's one thing that I still kind of struggle with. But in your
Mm.
course, it was really helpful to see how you took all of these different colors and were able to put them together to create a skin tone that felt really like a real person was looking back at you. It was amazing.
That's wonderful. I'm
You're
I'm
so
bright
good.
red. I'm bright red right now for those listening. Oh, that's so funny. Thank you so much for talking that up. I really appreciate it. I love it's so funny. I love painting portraits now. I've been a wedding painter and a portrait painter. You do portraits long enough that it's like, well, you got to like it, right? But when I
Hmm.
started, I was like, I painted one when I started painting full time independently in, I guess, 2014, 15. I painted one face and I was like, ugh, that wasn't fun. Don't want to do that again.
Yeah, same
Cause
thing.
like you
Same
do
thing.
one and you paint enough like pet portraits or houses or whatever. And I really love to see artists who they try a few things for a few years and then they're like, no, you know what? I really want to paint this. This is my jam. This is where I feel comfortable. This is where I feel confident. And then your audience comes for that, you
Hmm.
know? If
Yeah.
somebody comes to me asking for a house portrait, like a house illustration, I have like 5 people. I'm like, "Actually, this is their jam. They're really good at it." And
Yeah.
so you can trust them and do a good job. Wedding painting, send me your brides. Like I love wedding painting. I love traveling and doing all that. And so it's fun to see for me. It's fun to have these conversations and to ask how you got started and what did you try and the intimidation factor like you were saying about
Hmm.
acrylics, like you just
Yeah.
didn't want to even touch it. And then eventually you did and then played with it for a little bit. And then it was like, oh, wait a minute. This is actually really fun. I have not
Hmm.
tried gouache yet.
Oh, girl,
I
you're gonna love it.
I
It's
thought
so
I was
good.
bad at watercolor. I took a watercolor workshop with Alvaro Castagnet, who is a world famous watercolor
Oh my
painter.
gosh.
And I didn't it's funny, I didn't sign up for the workshop because he was world famous. I signed up because he is the cousin of the man who runs my local art supply store. And
What? That's
every year
amazing.
yeah, every year he's like, "My cousin is coming to teach a workshop. You need to sign up." And I would say, "Well, I'm not a watercolor painter. Why?" And then I signed up this year and I went and when I met him, everybody had flown in to see this guy do his thing, teach his what, and I learned how to paint expressively with watercolor. It was just I
Mm.
kind of had this blooming appreciation for the medium that I have up until that point been like, I'm not good at that. I'm not even going to bother.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, trying new medium is always very fun. And then you never know if you're going to like something. You never know that there may
Yeah.
be something that you like better. So you were illustrating, you have been illustrating for a long time,
So
but
long.
you run like an agency, like you have this company now. Tell us how you went
Yeah.
from independently working, doing these events, doing everything yourself, to how Vogue Vignette started.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I always have to start it with like, Vogue Vignette started with a nervous breakdown.
Ah!
Like, that's the reality. Um, and one thing that I don't really ever talk about is it really started with a diagnosis that I had. I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis like way back when, I think in about like the end of 2016. And so this is the first time I think publicly that I've really talked about it because I don't,
Mm,
but that really is a part of the story because I think once
mm,
that happened, I had this fear of like, one, I'm not making any money with the work that I'm doing. I'm making great stuff, but I'm stressed out. I'm not making any money. So that like combined with this diagnosis, both of those things like really propelled me forward into figuring out like, girl, how are you going to actually make artwork that is meaningful to you, but that can also be a business? Because at that
mm,
point, it was, I had a business, but it was really just a hobby because I would make really great work and not charge anything for that work. I think as most artists do, which is why, we get that struggling artist, starving artist type of mentality. Um,
mm.
because I want to make artwork to like I want to make people happy with it. I want to like create something that's really good for you, that you're gonna like treasure and want to
Yeah,
keep and to frame and to hang on to. And once that initial diagnosis happened and like I had my first symptoms, it really freaked me out.
yeah,
It freaked me out in I was having this numbness in my hand and some issues with one of my eyes and like with sight. And it really scared me into thinking, Stephanie, you are 35. I love to draw. I love to paint. I love to make things. It really like made me get my act together and figure out like what do I need to do to take care of my body so that I can continue painting? Like because that was the fear was
mm,
I don't know if I'm going to be able to use my hands next year or in 5 years. Like it really started with like this fear of I'm not sure if I can keep doing this the way that I'm doing it right now because the way that it's going, like I'm not going to be able to even work. I'm gonna have to
yeah,
figure something else out. So that's the reality. Like that's like so that's really where it started was like feeling like okay, like this is a new lease on life. I don't have to continue going down this physical path that I'm going down, I can make changes. So instead of just slowing down, like probably would have been a smart thing to do, I decided to ramp up, start a new business. So I I just think that's so funny that it's like, I did the opposite of, I think what probably was the smartest thing to do. But I started taking courses on I joined Artist Inc. the summer of, I think, 2017. And one started, taking better care of my body and like
mm,
really being more mindful about how it was talking to myself and the way that I was really treating my whole temple, like inside, spiritually, physical,
yeah,
like everything. Um, but I started learning. Like I started taking courses on um, how to actually have a business, like how to really use both sides of your brain to work for you. Like, the class that I took was Artist Inc. and it was the summer of 2017. And it, I think, was based in Kansas, but came to Austin for a summer. I think we were the only cohort that they had, but they brought in, I think, like 20 artists into that group. They broke us up into little small groups. And each of us was paired with a successful artist who was our mentor. Like they check in with us and make sure that we were doing our homework. They brought in professionals, whether it was a marketing professional or a web designer who knew how to really help you elevate your
Mm,
visibility online, or someone from the city who was talking about grants and the fact that that was a possibility for everybody. You just have to
yeah.
apply. Whereas beforehand, that was not even something that was at the forefront of my mind, is that the city had programs available to be able to offer funding. So one of the first grants that I did was, I think, like a $500 grant. It was either 500 or $1,000, and it was a capacity building grant. So it was designed to help the budding entrepreneurs like invest in their business. So I
Mm,
invested in um, like a booking software so that I had something that I could keep everything in one place versus it all just being in my Gmail very randomly. I'm not super great at organization. So that really helped, um, you know, having the website for a year. It was able to pay for all of these different things that were so important to getting the business off the ground. Because otherwise, like I started Vogue Vignette with $400 in my bank account. Like that's what I had. I was like, look, this has gotta
wow.
take me somewhere. So I took that class and met amazing artists who a lot of them are still my friends and we keep up with, who are all doing really phenomenal things with the work that they're putting out into the world. I got some business mentors from SCORE, Mike Harkin and Richard Jaswiakowski. Mike was a financial expert, Richard is a marketing expert. And usually with SCORE, it's a national organization that pairs entrepreneurs with business mentors. Usually you get one. I'm not sure if they saw that I was an artist and were like, oh God, this girl needs some additional help, but they gave me two. And they were so wonderful in helping me really figure out, like, okay, I've been an artist all this time. I've made no money. I
Yeah.
want to like really figure out how to do this so that I can create a business and not just make artwork. Um, and so they helped me develop my first business plan, my very first business plan ever. And it was, I mean, it took us a while. It took us a while to really like, we met once a month for an hour and we really dove into like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Who are you serving? Why are you doing what you're doing? What are your actual goals? Like, what is the service that you are actually providing for your client? Who are you providing this client for? So they really walked through all of that with me. And initially, when I went, it was my idea for the business was more product based. So I had these bookmarks, and I only laughed because I had these really adorable bookmarks, and everything that I was wanting to do was like really inspirational. I wanted it to be empowering um, for budding artists. I wanted it to feature, women of color who were in a lot of different industries. And, I had these beautiful bookmarks and they sold. I did markets around Austin and they did sell. But when we really got down to the bottom line of it, they were like, how many bookmarks do you need to sell
Yeah.
to make any actual money? Because you're making
Yeah.
like 50 cents a bookmark
Mm.
and you're selling like 10. Or like
Stephanie.
I was like, heard, I received that. But they were like, but you have this other thing in your business plan that you have talked about. Tell us more about this. I was like, oh, well, like companies will hire me and I go into the store and I'll do illustrations for their guests. And they're like, and what's the impact? They asked me all these questions. And, I was able to answer them really quickly. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, well, this is why they have me there. They're like, okay. So they just went through everything and they're like, this thing that you're talking about right now, the live fashion sketching for events, They were like, we are two old white men and we understand this model of a business.
Wow.
They're like, if you can get us to understand why someone would want to pay you to come into their store or to go to their wedding or to go to their gala, we get that. Like,
Yes.
focus. Like, this is the thing. You already told us that you love this. You already told us you want to do more of it, and this makes sense. Like, this is where you need to focus in. And once you get this off the ground, like, you can still do all of these passion projects that are empowering and inspiring. Um, but girlfriend, you gotta like have a business. Like you gotta make sure that what you're doing is actually making money. Because at
Hmm.
the end of the day, it's a business and that's the goal. That's the end goal of a business is to have a profit, not just to have a charity where you're making beautiful work and crying all the time because you have no money. Um, so they really helped me like focus in on what I was having fun doing and really loving. So they were so integral to me getting to the place where I am today. Because in those initial meetings, I was able to lay out like, well, here are some ways that the business is going to grow. We can do this like
Mm.
entertainment package. We can have screens at different events where people are going to be able to really see the activation. It's going to be more entertaining and engaging. They're like, what else? I was like, oh, we can book more artists. Like, we're providing opportunities for other artists. I know that for me, it's been about being able to provide opportunities for other artists. It's been so
Mm.
exciting to see that it's possible to make a successful business as an artist and to now be able to use a Vogue Vignette as a platform to book other artists and to
Mm.
kind of turn it into a launching pad for their own creative endeavors. It's been really fulfilling and definitely a challenge at times because, Vogue Vignette started with just me. It started with
Yeah.
um, me answering every email and taking every phone call and designing every flyer and building the website to now having a team of people that work with us to make sure that we're booking successful events and that we have all of the details ready so that our artists can go in and feel like they're prepared and
Mm.
have everything that they need to put their best foot forward and to really like represent themselves and represent the company in the best way possible. It's been pretty astonishing to see how far it's gone in the past 7 years.
I have goosebumps and there are tears in my eyes. What a beautiful story. So, Vogue Vignette today, what does it look like? What does the company look like? What kind of quantity of events are you doing? How many artists are on the team? What does your life look like now? Have you been able to achieve, I know it's kind of a sandwich question, but have you been able to achieve more balance in your work life and your personal life, your health, your physical, mental health? How do, are you there? Are you getting there? You know what I
I'm
mean?
getting there. I'm
Yeah.
getting there. I feel like we have an internal team. So my mom, Gladys, is actually our booking manager. I know. My
Oh,
mama's on salary.
ah, that's my dream. I wish mom, I know a lot of
Yeah.
people can't imagine working with their mom, but every time I go hang out with my mom, I'm like, you know, all my problems. Come and help me.
Yeah, and I'm sure
She would
she's
never.
like sweet as pie as well. Like that. And it took my mom started working with me
Mm,
like during COVID. Like I would talk to her about what was going on in the business. And honestly, like at the very beginning when I started the business, like not even in the back of my head, but I wrote it down somewhere. Like I'm making this business so that one day my mom can like come in and like take over if she needs to. So she has her own business and opportunities
mm,
and is able to make money in her own way. So that was always something at the
beautiful.
very beginning that was like in the forefront of my mind. Um, so the fact that she's working with us now, like she is on the phone with our clients, and she's reaching out to the artists and getting them booked for different events, making sure they have all of the information that they need. So the itineraries, like how the event's going to flow. She hires the assistant for them. So I know I need to continually just like up how much she's making, because she does everything. Like
Yeah.
she's the backbone of Vogue Vignette now, which has been really amazing. And I'm so grateful for the fact that she even wants to be a part of it and puts everything that she has into it, because she loves the business, but also she loves
Yeah.
me and wants to see it succeed. The work-life balance, I'm getting there. I'm really having to be mindful of putting, having full days of like, this is your day off. You're not going
Yeah.
to check your emails. You're not going to, if you want to draw, that's one thing, but you're not going to work on the commission. Like, you're not going to do those things. You do something for yourself, because I feel like replenishing that um love for art is something right now that I'm trying to get back into a little bit more, because it gets busy. We're in the busy season right now. Um, we work with like 7 artists all across Texas and one in Alaska. So we have artists in Houston, San Antonio, Austin, and Dallas, and we are booking them. I mean, everybody has events usually every week, especially during the holiday season. Like, it's
Mm.
really busy. So it's wild to see how it's grown and to see the demand, and um, to be able to provide these services for our clients and to provide these opportunities for the artists. Um, it's also exciting to see all of these new illustrators popping up. I know that oftentimes it can feel like, I'm not sure if it's like this with the live wedding painting, where you're like, oh my God, like when I started out, it was just me. And
Yeah.
now it's like there's so many people. And I have to keep reminding myself too, is like, and Stephanie, you can only illustrate at so many of them
Yeah.
until you break. So, and the fact is, there's so the world is so big. Even
Mm.
Texas is so big that even with like all of the artists and new illustrators that are kind of like emerging and recognizing like, oh, that's something that I can do. I think I want to try that. There's enough room for everybody. And I
Yeah.
think that's like the reminder that I have to tell myself when I start feeling that like scarcity and lack mindset popping in, is
Mm.
like, no, that's not the world that we're going to exist in. Like, there is enough. Like, I
Yeah.
have a list of like numbers. Like, there are, 5,000 weddings in just Austin or Texas alone every
Yeah.
month. Like, if there are
Yeah.
5,000 events just in that one wedding industry, then there's more than enough for everyone to be able to have their opportunity and to be able to build and create their own creative career. So that's pretty exciting, and something that I have to like keep just gently remind myself of, like, no, we're not going to go into that place. We're going to like, let's drop back down into our heart and like really recognize like it's okay like that.
What a
It's hard
powerful
to challenge
statistic.
sometimes. Yeah.
It will, of course, because you see, especially with Instagram, you're scrolling and you see, and I have to remind like my students, when you are searching and like spending time looking at and engaging with other artists
Mm-hmm.
and other live painters and other illustrators posts, the algorithm is going to show you more of that, and the more you follow,
Mm-hmm.
it's like your feed, all you see is your competitors, whereas
Mm-hmm.
that's not how everyone else's, that's not how your ideal client's feed is curated,
Yeah.
so you're
Yes.
seeing all of your competitors, but not everybody else's, so don't worry about that. That's such
Yeah.
a lens through which to look at life and look at, the industry. So that's a good thing to remember. But your statistic, I think about that stat all the time, how many weddings there are monthly or annually in my
Mm-hmm.
own hometown, you know?
Yeah.
And I think when I was feeling when I was struggling. It was maybe 2019, before COVID for sure.
Mhm.
But there was a year where more and more people kind of were popping up, and I was feeling online, especially, and I was feeling kind of scared, like, oh my gosh, now I have
Mhm.
all, because you mentioned when I started, you were one of the only in your area. There weren't that many.
Mhm.
And I started feeling kind of nervous about it. And I just kind of looked up, like, how many people got married in New Orleans last year? And it was like 60,000 people got married in New Orleans in a year. And then I was like, okay, well, how many of those people could I serve? And
Mhm.
there's 52 weekends in a year. You do the math, that's 104. If I
Yeah.
do, if I do Friday, Saturday, I can only serve 100. I can only work 100 times. And I don't want to do that. That sounds
Yeah,
insane.
that's even too much.
Exactly. So then it's like,
Mhm.
okay, I could chill out a little. It's very
Yes.
it's a great, and then if you travel, then you're looking
Mhm.
at hundreds of thousands and millions of people. That it's just the
Yeah.
numbers it's just evidence when you're looking. If you're ever
Mhm.
feeling, I like, as creative and not techie or nerdy as I claim to be, I really am. I look to data for
Mhm.
confirmation when I'm
Mhm.
feeling wobbly,
Yes.
when I'm feeling weak in any area, weak in my opinion, weak in my confidence, whatever. I look at data, and the data that, I can pick and choose what data to look at, but it is easy to look
Yeah.
at the people who are either engaging with my posts, or the people who have inquired, or the people who have spent money, how much money, like the
Mhm.
average of what people will spend, like, all looking back at data
Yeah,
when you've been doing it for a few years is incredibly encouraging. And even when
for
you first get
sure.
started, or even, there's something very powerful about data that is just kind of a sister to the data you're looking for. So, for example, you haven't ever painted with oils, let's just say.
No, I have some over
Okay.
here that have just been sitting there like, "Are you gonna ever use me?" I'm like,
Mhm.
"I don't know."
That's I have all these yeah, I feel you. But let's say you have never, and you're kind of thinking about trying it, but you don't have any
Mhm.
experience. You don't know what it's going to look like. Is it going to be a waste of your time? Is it going to make you feel like a failure? All these worries about trying something new, right? So the data that you may look to is, well, acrylic, I know what my style is. I know how I place the brushstrokes. I know how I look at the world, and
Mhm.
what color I kind of tend to lean towards. And I have an understanding, I have a history, I have data there. And then I've sold those paintings. I have people who actually love my
Mhm.
style of work. So I may not wake up and paint like Monet or John Singer Sargent, or
Yeah.
one of the greats
Mhm.
who spent their life
Yeah.
perfecting what they do, right? But there's data showing me that it might not be terrible at all.
Yeah.
I can see success in this way. And so that goes very hand in hand with your experience with that mentorship company, with those individuals who heard what you were saying, and heard the passion and the confidence and um I mean, the ability for success, the likelihood of success
Mhm.
in this particular type of business. They saw that in you, and they were like, that you mentioned, we're two white men. If you
Yeah.
can convince us,
Yeah.
like two old white dudes, if you can convince us that this is going to be a success, that this is a successful business model, then we see potential. And so
Yeah.
yeah, look at the data around you, and look at the potential that you have, what you mentioned,
Mhm.
the statistics whenever you're feeling
Yeah.
insecure, whenever you feel like
Mhm.
you have imposter syndrome. So do you, now that you've been doing this for so long, and then Vogue Vignette has been around for 7 years, I think you said
7
about
years,
7.
full-time, 7 years in August.
That's congratulations.
Thank
Lucky number
you.
7.
Woo!
Do you still feel imposter syndrome in anything that you do?
Oh, 100%. But I didn't.
It's
Oh
probably
my
like
god.
every job you walk in, you're like, "Ooh, let's see."
I do. I know, it's so crazy. And I'll tell my husband, like, I'm a little nervous about this event. I'm like, what if I don't have it in me anymore? What if I'm this or that? And he's like, has anyone ever at any event that you've ever been to not loved what you're doing. Like your clients keep coming back to you because they love what you're doing. They love what your artists are putting out. Like get over that. And it's, I have to remind myself that it's all in my head. That it is just in my head. It's easier said than done because I definitely still feel that of like, do I still got it? Am I still any good? Like, so those thoughts kind of come through, and it really is just like an insecurity of like, maybe it's time to just go for a walk and you get out of your
Mm,
head and get into your body. Or, um, yeah, it's one of those things that I think that we're gonna be feeling and kind of dealing with for the rest of our lives if, reality and what I've heard from older, wiser artists is like they still deal with that.
yeah.
So it's just recognizing, having the tools and the mechanisms to kind of like pat that little part of you on the head and say, it's okay. It's okay to be scared.
Yeah.
It's all right to feel like you're not good enough.
Yeah.
But what we have to recognize is that you are beautiful and perfect the way you are. The work that you're doing is work that you love, and it comes from you, and it comes from like a really special place in your heart. And that's all you can sit on. Like it's the comparison game, I think, that really pulls in that
Mm.
imposter syndrome. It is the Instagram algorithm that's like, look at all of these people doing the same thing that you're doing. And the reality is, like, there's so many illustrators and artists out there that are like, they're phenomenal. And they're,
Mhm.
yeah, I think, what Ben Folds has a song on his, God, what is it, the Sunny EP, and he's like, there's always someone cooler than you, and I feel like it's kind of like that with art. Like, there's always going to be someone better than you. There's always going to
Yeah.
be someone who's like older and has been doing this for longer, or like you used to be able to sit in your office and just illustrate for 8 hours a day. Like that's just how it is. But I have to like rest in my own skills and who I am and what I do and why I do it, and let that be, and just kind of,
Yeah.
just say, okay, well, I appreciate the fear and I appreciate my body kind of trying to like protect me from God knows what, but I'm not gonna go there right now. So it's a skill that I'm daily learning how to do to manage that. Do you feel that way too?
Yes.
Okay.
With everything. I mean, hello, we are, in the very beginning of this podcast, and every single time I don't even have to sit down yet. It's just when I wake up in the morning and I'm like, "Oh my god, I have to attempt another, you know, recording
Hmm.
set." Like this is very nerve-wracking. This is very new, doing something new for the first time. That's kind of one of the reasons why I love live wedding painting, because even though I've done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, right? You do so many
Hmm.
and you get more confidence in your creative ability, but you walk into a room with a blank canvas or with a stack of paper
Hmm.
and you're like, "Okay, I gotta start. I have to do a good job." Like there's money on the line, there's
Hmm.
expectations. This is especially for weddings. Oh my god.
There
Like
are people watching
there
me.
are people. It's very vulnerable, and there's a reason. I
Yeah.
will s I'll tell you, and because 'cause I've told people before, and there's an emotional cycle that comes with creating a work of art, okay? There's a lot
Mm.
of, nerves and anticipation and self-doubt and, decision fatigue that comes with looking at a blank canvas, paper, panel, whatever. And then you pick up
Yeah.
your pen, your brush, and then you start planning the composition, you start planning it, and then you have to go through that phase of the initial layers, and that
Hmm.
stinks. It's ugly. You want to tell
Hmm.
people just look away and then come back. Like I'll
Yes,
tell
it's
people
gonna
all
be
the time.
better.
It gets better. It gets better. I'll tell
I
people who
did
are
the same
watching,
thing.
I'll say, "Why don't you go dance for a little bit and come back?" And then you overcome that, and then you're like, "Oh, wait, this is actually oh, I see this is gonna be really nice." And then at the end of the night,
Mhm.
for me, a wedding painter, when I'm doing one piece, at the end of the night, at the end of the 4 to 8 hours, depending on, the size of the canvas and all that, it's finished and I feel this rush of adrenaline, like I've just finished a
Mm.
race and I could
That's
start it all over and do it
amazing.
all over again. It's this rush of pride and adrenaline, and I just want to show everyone on the way out the door. It's an
Mhm.
amazing rush. And so I experienced that cycle one time over the course of the night. Whereas an illustrator,
Mm.
a guest illustrator, you experience
Yeah.
that in
Over and
micro
over.
doses over and over.
Yeah.
Every, what did you say,
Yeah.
6 to 8 minutes?
Mhm.
Every
Yeah, it's
6 to 8 minutes,
wild.
and then you don't stop in the middle, so it's not like, okay, you can sit
Yeah.
back and, you know, collect yourself.
Yeah.
Nope, start again,
It's
and
like little
that
sprints.
yes, and
That's
that is
that
why
what
I
it yeah.
think your job is harder because of the emotional, like, that
Oh,
toll,
there's
you
so
don't
much. Yeah, for
mhm.
sure, because I know when I've made mistakes. I know that there are quite a few illustrations out there that I'm like, "I would love to be able to take that one back and to burn that one." Like, unfortunately, that's the reality. I'm like, I wish, you know, that I didn't have those, but I know that that's the reality of, like, having illustrated thousands and thousands and thousands of people,
Yeah,
like, that there are some out there that I'm like or, like, it doesn't happen as often now because I feel like I've refined something and that muscle memory that we were talking about
mhm,
earlier, like, that muscle memory knows she knows where to place that stroke and what to do, it's not an
mhm,
issue, but, every once in a while in those 7-minute time periods, there will be moments of, like, just absolute panic. Like, "What have I done? Am I gonna start over? Am I gonna keep going? Am I gonna figure out how to fix this mistake?" And it's
mhm.
just, every single one is like a new challenge of, like,
Yeah,
this is a new challenge to figure is it a happy mistake? Can you make
mhm,
it a happy mistake and turn it into something that you're still proud of and wanna be able to, like, present to somebody? Um Yeah, it's a mind trip. Every event is a mind trip, and it's not
yeah,
just, the, physical act of making the illustration, like, if the client is sitting, for some of the events, people will pose for us, and then they'll be able to have a seat, and it's like an act of, like, also having a conversation with them and trying not
yes,
to stop illustrating. Because
yes.
I, as you've seen from this podcast, like to talk with my hands. So it's been a challenge to not like lift my hands up from the paper and keep going while still being able to have an engaging conversation with people and getting to know them and asking them how they know the couple and making sure that they're also having a really great experience with the
Mhm.
live artist who's making something specifically for them. It's a lot, it can be a lot, and then if you see a massive line forming in front of
Yeah.
you, before I had assistance, it was just me. So I would see, okay, I have 30 more minutes in this event, and more people have just jumped in line. So I have to get up and like, "Sorry guys, the line is closed." Now we have assistants who are able to tackle that and make sure that we are don't have more than what we're realistically able to illustrate and achieve in that time frame. Because the people are waiting, even if they're waiting for like a minute, they act like they have waited for an hour
Mm.
and get so irritated.
No, not
Yes,
not
girl.
these wedding guests
Oh, who've been drinking all night.
who've been drinking on who think that you're a magic unicorn who can, you know, do
Exactly.
400 portraits in 4
Yeah,
hours. No way.
yeah. It gets crazy.
Oh my gosh. You
Stressful. It's stressful
you
sometimes.
you're a unicorn. You really are.
No, you are.
Yeah.
I
Do you see, I don't know how to respond to compliments anymore. Do you
don't know either.
still love it? Do you still have fun? Is
I
it very
do.
fun for you to actually do the work?
Yeah.
How's your hands? How's your dexterity? Is it Is it
We
good?
go through some times.
Yeah.
Yeah. It depends on like if, because there will be some times where I have 3 or 4 events in a week, and it's
Mhm.
those times where, and I'm still like answering emails and I'm still,
Mhm.
doing all that work. So I definitely have had a few scares, um,
Mhm.
where it's like I can feel the tingle or I can feel the inflammation in my joints. So I
Mhm.
definitely have learned different I'm like having to learn how to take care of my hands specifically,
Mhm.
like different stretches that we do, or um different like drops, like tinctures that help with, anti-inflammation. Like if I
Mhm.
really had a lot of event sketching going on, then a nice cold plunge for the hands is really helpful at just kind of
Ooh,
like, oh, it's painful. It's
that sounds
painful.
so good though. I
But yeah,
like that.
girl, it's really good for like at the end of a really long night to just like get a bucket of ice, pour some water in it, and just try to keep your hands in as long as you can. It does not feel good for like the first 30 seconds. It just feels like a bunch of needles are stabbing
Mhm.
you. Um, but I wake up the next morning and the inflammation is drastically reduced compared to if I hadn't done it. Where, that's really when I feel it is the next morning of like
Yes.
sleeping and, I
Mhm.
kind of clutch my hands. So that's not helping. I'm not sure,
You're not alone though. I mean, I wake up and my feet and my lower back are
oh, I
sore in the
bet.
morning, from just standing, but the
Yeah.
hand thing, could you do us all a favor and could you do a demonstration of one of the hand stretches that you use? Because this
Yeah.
is something that could be helpful for all of us live artists who are working without stop at a rushed pace for, the course of an
For
evening.
sure. Yeah. So instead
And
of
so
like just popping the joints,
mhm,
I really try and like push the hands together
mhm. Like this?
so that it's
Yeah.
not only just activating the hands, but it's trying to like activate the whole arm because it's not just the
Ooh,
hands that hurt. It's
correct.
like the forearm and it's it's everything. And, because I'm predominantly right-handed, you know, my one shoulder is like
Mhm.
popped up a little bit more than the other, so that's also an
Yes.
issue. I started doing Tai Chi recently, like over the past month, and because I like a gentle stretch and a gentle
Mhm.
workout, I'm not really here to like,
You're not boxing,
no, but I'm not, no, I'm not interested in that. I was a gymnast and a cheerleader all growing up, and that was enough pounding of my body. But one of the exercises that I really love doing, and I do before and after an event, is like it's kind of hard on this, but you pop one hand up and hold it flat, and then the other hand is just going down, and you hold it there for like 10 seconds. And you just kind of push, girl. Yes,
Oh,
rotate. And you
wait.
really just
That's
hold
great.
it there for a little bit of time. And it really activates, like, I mean, you feel a surge going all the way
Wow.
from like the tips of your fingers, um, like down your body. It's just like a full body stretch with all you're having to do are your hands. That is one of my favorite new stretches because it really like it opens up the palm, it like moves energy into my hands, but it also is pushing energy down through the rest of my body. And so that pain isn't just sitting in my hands anymore. It's like we're moving it,
Mhm.
we're moving it, and we're just gonna breathe it out and exhale. And then
That's incredible.
I mentally have to like remind myself like we're gonna exhale any inflammation and any pain that we're feeling. So I definitely have to get a little like
And it's so
mental
simple. So
that.
for those listening, Stephanie just did a very simple and wonderful, lovely, lovely, assistant here did a little demonstration. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see it. But if
Mhm,
I can describe it, you're going to extend one hand above your head straight up to the sky, but your palm is flat. Okay.
mhm,
So straight up to the sky. And then the other hand is going to go straight down by your hips, also with the palm flattened. And then you're going to push in either direction with your palm
mhm,
and then switch. Yes. Okay.
mhm. Just
Try.
very gently.
It's
Yeah, I think
yes.
uh, it's the
And it
gentle
loosen
stretch
it
that, yeah, that's amazing.
and encourages blood flow, which will help with
Hmm.
inflammation. Try it. That
My
ooh,
favorite.
I'm adding that to
Yeah.
my stretching deal because I have had 3 pregnancies and 3 kids and 3 postpartums and while doing this job, and I've
Oh my
got my own
goodness.
little stretches that I do, but that one is actually it's just so simple. I'm gonna add that to
Hmm.
my
It's
list of
good.
stretches to do. I used to be so scared. I mean, terrified to bring oil paints to a wedding or an event that I was painting at until I realized that Gamblin has me covered with all of the mediums, the paint thinner, the varnish, the whole gambit. I love using Gamsol as an odorless paint thinner. Okay, this is what I use to wash my brushes to thin the paint. I use a big jug of that to slow the drying time. If I'm trying to finish a painting and layer and do all of that, I use Galkid. It's a very thick medium that I love to use with my oil paints. And let's say it's very dry, it's a very hot and dry environment. I love to slow the drying time with refined linseed oil. This is my medium of choice for my oil paints. And when the painting is dry and I'm ready to send it off to the client, I varnish it with Gamvar, high gloss. That's my preference. And Gamblin has you covered with your preference as well. You can visit their website, www.gamblincolors.com. That's spelled GAMBLIN colors.com, or you can click the link in the show notes to shop my preference for oil painting mediums. Check them out and thank me later. So, do you have children? While you're
I have,
doing all of your
yeah.
building this empire, I'm going to call it an
Hmm.
empire because I think it's a big word, but
Yeah.
it's, you're building you've changed your business model, you've gone through all of this diagnosis of MS and you're, growing as a human and a person and all of these things and you have children. How has
Yeah.
being a mom added to your life and, how have you been juggling everything?
Yeah. So I have two twin. I always say two 16-year-old stepsons, but then people are like, are they twins? Yes, I have twins. They're 16. They are tall. They're string beans like their daddy. Um, and it's been, I mean, it's been a journey juggling and juggling being a mom and having a family and also feeling like I'm needing to work all the time.
Mhm.
Like I think that's been one of my biggest struggles is we have events all the time on the weekends. Thursday nights is also a really popular night for events. So,
Mhm.
I think really for me it's been hard saying no to some things
Yeah.
and just staying home and like being with them. Um, because I'm a busybody. Like I like to
Yeah.
keep working and I want to keep making that money and I want to like keep
Mhm.
elevating the business. But it's also been really cool, Pierce, our oldest by 1 minute. Um, he tells everybody he's the oldest brother. He wants to be an artist and he feels pretty but like and he's really good too, like he practices
Mhm.
all the time and he loves making artwork and he loves illustrating, he loves creating characters. um and I think that's been one of the coolest things about having the business and being able to raise them is them seeing that you can have a successful business as an
Mhm.
artist and make money.
Yeah.
And like that's not anything that I ever saw growing up. Like I didn't even know I could be an artist. I kind
Yeah.
of wanted to be something like that, but I didn't know it was possible because I didn't see it. So the fact that they're able to see that it is possible, that you can follow your passions and what you're, interested in pursuing, it's really encouraged the both of them to like to know that a creative career is possible. And I think that's been
Yeah.
one of the coolest things about having the business and raising them around the business. I mean, I definitely put them to work sometimes. It's like, all right, I got all
Yeah.
these packages I need to stuff. Like, so if they want to make money, like they've got some chores, then I can definitely like have them helping and they can really see um, what goes into running a business. It's not always
Mhm.
super fun and it's not just always going to an event and illustrating in front of people, but they really see what it takes. And at 16, they're going to be 17 in January. I think for me, it's been really wonderful being able to show that side to them and to really give
Mm-hmm.
them a realistic experience of like, this is what it looks like to run a business. They clearly see the crazy part of it. They see the room changing all the time. Like, oh, you rearranged again. I'm like, oh, I don't want to hear it. um, but it still is like, a constant struggle
Mm-hmm.
to really balance being home and, you know, saying no to stuff and really making sure that when I am here and we're together, that that time is really intentional and
Mm-hmm.
it's not focused on the business or what needs to be done or this or that, but it's just, we're just being a family. We're just being together
Yeah.
and we're like involved in each other's lives and how we're growing. And I think it's been, um, I think that's been one of my biggest struggles for sure, is like
Mm-hmm.
balancing the two. Because my head is always like, we have a job to do,
Mm-hmm.
but also my kids aren't going to stop growing. They're
Yeah.
they're juniors in high school. They're going to be seniors next year, and it's just like that recollection or that remembrance of like, they grow up fast and like you put in, you know, time so that you can be with them because, you know, also when they get older, they probably just aren't going to want to hang out with me as much anymore. 'Cause I'm not the cool mom. um, but it's been beautiful to have a business that can inspire them to do something that is, not typical
Yeah.
job. Yeah. But it's been I'm sure as you know, and you on a different level. You've got three babies that are under how old?
They're 1, 3, and 5. So
Oh
they're
my
all,
gosh.
but you're giving me so much hope. And I was going to ask if you had any advice whenever, as they're getting older and all that. But, you're giving me so much hope and kind of like excitement for the future. You hear so many people, oh,
Hmm.
just wait, especially because I've got girls. Oh, just wait, and I know I was a girl. I know it's
Yeah.
going to get bad, but it's making me, hearing you talk about how you involve your kids in the business, and
Hmm.
then how your son is wanting to pursue some sort of creative career. You're making me very excited about the possibilities of what's to come when the kids get older, and
Hmm.
being what kind of example I'm leading now
Yeah.
in life.
Hmm.
And yeah, just trying to be true to myself and my calling as an artist, and also being present as a mom. Do you have any
Yeah.
advice for young mothers who have young children who are pursuing this career, and the career specifically for like the arts and the event industry, working weekends and late nights, things like that? Any little gem that you can share with me and
Yeah.
anyone else listening?
Gosh, that's so tricky. Um,
Mhm.
I think the biggest thing and something that I still have to work towards is like when you're together, you're together.
Yeah.
It's
Mm.
just y'all. Like that. And again, that's something that I still, because my head is always moving in a million different places. But like when you're together, be together. Like all of your focus is
Mhm.
on them. All of your focus is like on y'all being able to spend that time together because it goes so fast. Like I met them when they were 5 and they're 16 and I'm, it goes fast.
Yeah.
So just really being intentional, like I think, as most um, creative entrepreneurs will, who are either starting out or already, in their business, like, that it's consuming your thoughts all the time. Like you're
Mhm.
waking up and you're thinking about it. You're going to sleep and you're dreaming about it. Um,
Yeah.
you're in the middle of dinner and you're remembering this email that you need to send. And I think that's the um, biggest tip. And again, I need to take my own advice is that when you're with them, you're just together and y'all are just in that moment and in that place
Mhm.
together. They grow up real fast.
And if there's anything I've learned, it'll still be there tomorrow. You know,
Yeah.
business inquiries, the world, it's all going to
Hmm.
be there tomorrow.
Yeah.
I started by never taking a break and then
Yeah,
being
same.
burnt out. And
Hmm.
then, had to like step away for a month or two, 2022. And and then
Oh
coming
yeah,
back
that
out
was
of that break, and that was a rough because it was post
post-COVID.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it was like after the rush in 2021,
Hmm.
and so but I took a little break, and then what surprised me the most was how beneficial it was and how restorative it was, and then also that I, posted something on Instagram when I came back, if you will, and started talking about my work again, and the engagement was the same, and I was like, "Oh, these people don't care. These people have not been waiting around wondering where she went." Like, it's
Yes.
take care of yourself and be with your family. It is going to
Hmm.
be fine. You are a hard
Yeah.
worker. You are a talented artist. Jump back in the saddle whenever you come back from
Hmm.
your break. That's wonderful advice.
Yeah.
Are you still using cheap art supplies? Look, you don't have to tell me, but if you want to level up, you have to use better supplies. Come on, let's invest a little. I've been using Rosemary and Company for my paintbrushes for the past 5 years or so, and I have never thrown away one of these brushes. The quality is unmatched, and they're like reasonably priced. I hate to say it, but they're the best. So I love a long handled paintbrush. Okay. I love a hog hair or an ivory, which is kind of a mixed bristle hair. And Rosemary and Company, they have like so many options. So I would check them out. The website is www.rosemaryandco.com. That's Rosemary spelled Rosemary and co.com. Or you can just click the link in my show notes and it'll take you directly to my personal wish list. It's all the brushes that I use and recommend. So check them out and thank me later. You have a wonderful story. Thank you for sharing
Thank
your
you. Thank
story
you for
and
letting me
the
share.
the cause of like the why you started Vogue Vignette and why what happened in your life, that diagnosis too, because I have a family member with MS as well and have had friends,
Really?
and it kind of sneaks up on you after time, like over time, like it
Hmm.
takes a toll on your body. So you have to be intentional with your energy. And
Yeah.
um,
It's easy to
so,
forget
yeah,
sometimes, though. I think that, I
yeah,
don't know
because you feel
about with your
fine.
family member, because
Yes,
I'm like,
yes,
I'm great. I've been doing this for 7 years now. But every once in a while, it comes up at the times when it's like, it's time for you to slow down.
yeah,
And we're going to
yeah.
remind you by doing some weird things inside of your body. Thanks,
Oh my
guys.
God. What a
Thank
great
you for letting
reminder
me
to
share
be.
that. Yeah.
You're so welcome. Oh my goodness. And it's been a beautiful reminder to be grateful for what you have, like you are
Hmm.
an incredibly talented artist and a charismatic person. You're lovely, you're beautiful, and you've served so many clients, you've touched so many people, you've brought joy to so many people, and you are using your powers for good. You are using your
Thank
talents
you.
and bringing so much joy, and now you're helping other artists with their business and help them support themselves and their families, and now you're making
Well,
time, you're providing a livelihood for your mother. It's such a beautiful story, so thank you. What can I have a couple of like questions that I would love to
okay.
ask,
Yeah.
because this is fun and I don't want it to end, but it's got to end sometime, right?
I know. I know.
So we got stuff to do. Girl,
I know. If businesses to go run, like,
I know
okay.
it's a lovely little escape. It's like getting
It
on,
is.
it's nice to see your face and all, but it's like, I feel like it's been just a phone call with a friend, just
Mhm.
talking about life. It's been so much fun. What is one skill that you learned in a previous job that may have really prepared you for the one you have as an illustrator or business owner?
Yeah. So one skill that I really learned in a previous job was being really proficient at graphic design. I was not trained in that. I did not have courses in that, but it really made me learn on the spot. And having all of that experience doing that really prepared me for having Vogue Vignette and being able
Mm,
to create the logo for the business, create all of the marketing collateral that we ended up emailing out to our clients, mailing out
Mm-hmm.
to clients. It really prepared me for being able to build my own website. I use Squarespace. If y'all want to support us, y'all can. Um, it all really helped me like take those skills and take everything that was in my head, all of the visuals that we had, and really pull it together so that our clients really understood what it was Vogue Vignette was doing, who Vogue Vignette was, and how we could help them. That was the
That's great.
greatest skill. Yeah, and I know you're
Sure.
a graphic designer, so I was like, I probably was not nearly as good as you because all of mine was very like intuitive of like, I think this feels right. It wasn't like
Well, that's all you need because
there's probably
honestly,
some crazy stuff out there, but
if you're trained to do it, you're just tempted to piddle. Like we call it
mm.
pixel pushing. You can easily spend hours designing one graphic for instance. Like it
Oh, I've
becomes a
definitely done
problem.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It becomes more of a crutch than anything. Like, what can I do?
Hmm.
It's almost better to outsource and be like, you do it. I'm sure it'll be perfect.
Yeah.
I,
Yes.
are you a micromanager? I tend to be a
Girl,
micromanager when,
yeah. It's a
it's
struggle. It's
a
a
problem.
struggle because
I
I'm
feel
like, let me just
bad.
do it. Let me just do it.
I
And
know.
I
Why are
just
we like
work all
this?
the time. I don't know. Drives me crazy.
So with all the things that you've got going on, your own creative
Mhm.
practice, your business, all of your employees, your family, what is a secret that you have? What is one way that you stay motivated or maybe get back motivated after you've taken a break or fallen away or, whatever?
Mhm. Yeah, so I really have to remember my why. I feel like that's the biggest thing that will kind of like center me back
Mhm.
into getting back to work and like really diving in is like remembering like why are you doing this? What are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, let's get back down to like the why. Like, really, my mission, after the diagnosis was like, okay, if you have to think, I had to do the umbrella diagram, no, flower diagram. And the last part was like the mission out of everything that you put down here. What's the mission? And mine was to heal the
Mhm.
heart through artwork, straight up. That was it. It felt so vague and it felt so big and a little too grand, but like ultimately that's it.
Mm.
um, is that I'm doing this to like, I know that there are healing properties to artwork. And I know that by giving somebody an illustration of them, that they're like, see themselves in a new light. I know that's like
Mhm.
touching a little part of their heart and it's filling them with a level of joy that I love. Like that's one of my happiest reasons why I do this is for the reactions, but also knowing that like it's gonna like touch them. It's gonna like eh,
Yeah.
give them a new light and perspective on how somebody else sees them
Mhm.
in a fabulous way. Um, so I remember my why and I really think about I'm wanting to create a legacy with the business and the work that I make. I'm wanting to make sure that my children and my nieces and my nephews and my friends' as kids and the kids that I've taught at illustration workshops, like that they all have an example of a Latina
Mhm.
who decided that this is what she wanted to do and went after it, and that it's possible to have a successful career doing that. So when I think about those two things, and I really think about like training a new army of illustrators, I know that artwork has the power to change people and societies. And I just want to make sure that in the work that I'm doing, that I'm leaving some kind of legacy that's positive and restorative and inspiring for the next generation to really take on that mantle and um, like heal their own heart through the work that they make and also like help heal and provide love to the people that get to encounter it.
That's a beautiful mission. I'm gonna steal that. I'm not.
Do it.
I'll let you. I'll let you keep the Latina part, and you can that. It's so beautiful. It's perfect. And not only the anyone in your family, but anyone who encounters you. Oh my gosh, like you are a light
Yeah.
when you're at an event, having somebody look up at you with this huge smile and say, I want to draw you. You're next in
Mhm.
line. Let's go.
Yeah.
That's so fun. I love that. What advice do you have for all of the artists who are coming into the space now and offering guest illustrations and marketing themselves as, whether it's fashion or more portrait artists, more caricature,
Mhm.
this space of illustrations, live illustrations at weddings and events? Do you have a piece of
Yeah.
advice?
Oh, I have pieces of advice. Yes. One is just practice, practice, practice. Like build that muscle memory so that your hand and your mind just know how to work together. They know how to talk together. They don't even have to talk because you've trained your hand and you've trained your body to do what needs to be done without having to tell it. I'm sure you feel the same way with painting. Like you just
Mm,
do it and your body knows what stroke comes next. Like just practice so you get to that place. Because in specifically the live fashion for events or live fashion sketching for events, like it's always going to be a level of it being about speed. And
mm,
like your clients want to know how many people can you illustrate. So if you're taking 30 minutes for one illustration, then they're going to find somebody else who can go a little bit faster and make sure that you can reach more of their guests. So really practicing honing your own skill and your own style so that you are able to separate yourselves from not just separate yourselves from other people, but so you as an artist can just distinguish who you are and what
mm,
you are able to bring um, to this industry. Um, Last piece of advice, get a really great accountant,
mm.
business courses,
Yep.
really
Yep.
understand that if you want a successful business as an artist, you need to be a business owner, not
Hmm.
just an artist. Because I will tell you from experience that an artist will just straight up drive your business to the ground, like to burn out. Um, Make sure that you are using both sides of your brain. Take classes, find people who can help you, really focus on building something that is sustainable through business development, through your business plan, through business mentors, through an accountant who can help you with making sure that you're making a profit. That I feel like that if I had known that when I started back in 2010, I feel like I would have like gotten a head start. It took me 7 years to learn that, but once I did learn that, it changed everything. It changed the trajectory of the business and how it's been able to grow. So those practice, 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 and and make sure that you are also taking care of the business owner, CEO version of yourself in addition to the
Hmm.
artist. They're two parts of um, running a successful art career, and having that business acumen is definitely a part of it that's going to really elevate your business so that you can create that legacy and you can create sustainability and really generate the revenue that your artwork deserves to make.
Yes, ma'am. I could not have said it better myself. It's so important. I mean, because and I love that you were like, ask me how I know, because as an artist, you really you need to be a good artist to have a successful career as an independent creative worker,
Mm,
right? But without the business acumen, without having all your ducks in a row and keeping up with your accounting and your taxes and everything and understanding your ideal market and how to your ideal audience and how to market to them, what you doing? You're
yeah.
creating a bunch of work that nobody's going to see, and
Hmm.
you're missing the mark and not connecting with people who would commission you. And
Hmm.
I feel very passionately about service-based art and the
Yeah,
commission world, and yeah, great advice. Thank you for sharing that.
you're welcome.
where can people follow you and watch you create your work and look at your portfolio and learn more about Vogue Vignette?
Yeah, so y'all can find us on all of the social media platforms. Instagram, we're Vogue Vignette Official.
Could you
TikTok,
spell that?
Vogue Vignette. Oh, yes, I would love to. VOGUE Vignetteofficial on Instagram. If you would like to follow my own personal account, it's Stephanie J. Schiller, STEPHANIE, JSCHILLER. That's on TikTok and Instagram. I'm working on getting my own work and my own brand out there as well,
Mm.
because we've got Vogue Vignette, and a long time ago, Vogue Vignette was my pen name. So it started
Yeah.
out as like, oh, I'm Vogue Vignette. And now I'm like, I'm not Vogue Vignette anymore. Like, Vogue Vignette is this whole entity,
Mm-hmm.
like it's its own living being. So I'm definitely now in a place of like, all right, Stephanie, it's time to show people who you are and what you do
Yeah.
and what you're capable of like bringing forth. You can visit our website, www.voguevignette.com. Check out our work, check out our artists, and if y'all have an event that's coming up, please fill out the form on our homepage or really anywhere on our website and reach out. We'd love to chat with you about how we can create a really amazing experience and keepsake for your upcoming event.
Oh my gosh, that's so exciting. Yes, Vogue Vignette, all of your artists are incredibly talented, but they have definitely
Thank
been
you. They
trained.
are.
And your work and your the framework, the foundation on which Vogue Vignette has been built and the reputation it has now is thanks to you and your work and your creativity.
Mm.
And you are an exceptional businesswoman. I'm so proud to know you. I'm so glad we met
Likewise.
all those years ago. I was
I
so
know you were
impressed.
pregnant, I think.
And
Were
I
you
feel like I've been
pregnant?
pregnant
Like
forever.
9 months pregnant?
That would
I
not
was like, who is
surprise
this
me.
crazy lady over here who is clearly insanely talented, but also looks like she's about ready to pop?
Yeah, I probably was.
Yeah.
And it's part of life. Like, what you gonna do? What you gonna do? Pick one?
You gotta work.
They're
Yeah.
both my babies. Oh my gosh. Thank you so
Oh,
much. Thank you for your time. Thank you for hanging out with me and sharing your story. It was absolutely beautiful. I'm very inspired. I'm inspired by you
thank
in
you.
general. But thank you for coming to hang out with me. So anybody listening, thank you so much also for your time, for listening to the episode or watching on YouTube. Please check out Stephanie and Vogue Vignette. The links are going to be in the show notes, and or she spelled it out for you, so you can type it in and look her up yourself. If you enjoyed this episode, which I know you did, go ahead and share it, please. You can listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. Please leave a review or a comment. Now you can leave comments on podcast episodes, which is so cool and engaging. Tell us what you thought. Leave a comment and leave a review. Let us know what you think. It's the best way for other people to find the podcast and listen to wonderful conversations like this one. So there you go. We did it. Thank you so much again for being here. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And I can't wait to see what you create next and your
Thank
original work as well. Thanks,
thank
Steph.
you, Steph.
All right. Bye, girl. Thank you for tuning in and joining us on this journey of artistic exploration, entrepreneurial growth, and personal development. Remember, you have the power to create a life that is both fulfilled and balanced. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please subscribe to The Composed Artist on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. And don't forget to leave us a review. Your feedback means the world to us and helps us reach more creatives like you. Until next time, keep creating, keep dreaming, and keep pursuing that composed life. You got this.